Alright guys, so let me start this off by telling you that this is a sponsored video. It's brought to you by the folks at Bobtail Factory, and we will get more into them at the end of the video. But I want to talk to you about factoring, what factoring is, how it can help, how it can hurt. And I've got a lot of stuff wrote down right here, so don't mind me as I'm reading off my phone, because factoring is a very important part of having your own authority, running a trucking company, all these different things. Even for lease purchase, lease operator guys, factoring plays a role in how often and how much you get paid, because you do lose money when you factor. So every little percentage that you can save really helps out, even if it's 0.5%, 1/4%, and whatever kind of fee you can get away from paying will also help you out. So what is factoring? Freight factoring is money that's advanced on your accounts receivable. So that basically means that if you haul a load, okay, a factoring company will pay you almost immediately for hauling that load once it's delivered, minus a fee that they charge for advancing you that money. In most cases, companies, shippers, receivers do not pay immediately. Sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes it's 60 days, sometimes it may be even longer. But a factoring company will give you that money in advance so that you don't have to wait, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. But how does factoring work? Well, you deliver your load, okay? You send an invoice to your factoring company. Your factoring company sends an invoice to that customer, and then the factoring company pays you for hauling that freight, minus their fees, okay? In most cases, factoring companies do require a contract. Okay, they require you to sign a contract with them, sometimes for a year, maybe longer. But you should know that you should avoid contracts. Stay away from signing a contract with a factory company, because what you started with them may not fit you in a few months. It may not fit you in a year. Okay, a lot of factoring companies also. And remember, when a company ties you to a contract, you're stuck. And even if they let you out of it, there's normally a large fee, a large fine, some kind of penalty that goes along with that. Keep what's called a reserve, okay, which is a percentage of each invoice as a security deposit. So some keep 10%. So if you run a load for $1,000, they're only going to pay you $900. They're going to keep 10% of that until they get paid from the company that you hauled it for. Okay, does that make sense? So a lot of companies have become no reserve companies, or they're starting to. The newer ones are, including the one that sponsored this video, Bobtail Factory. Okay, what are the typical rates? How much are you expected to pay for this kind of service? All right, anywhere between 1.5% to 5%. Now that's very high. Okay, for one truck, if you're just a one truck deal, you should probably be around 3.5%. You've got some folks out there. Also remember, there are companies out there that charge low factoring fees. But normally, there are a lot of hidden costs that they don't tell you about that will rack up and end up charging you more in the long run. They're talking about 4%, talking about 4.5%. You've got guys talking about 3.5%. But you want to get that number as low as possible, and you want to get with a company that's not going to charge you tons of fees on top of that, okay? Because they might be charging you 3.5% to factor that freight. However, on top of that, they could be charging you a couple dollars for this, a couple dollars for that, and that's going to add up big, okay? Now, you've got to make sure. Now we've got this written down here. Common factoring mistakes that carriers make, okay? One of the biggest mistakes with anything, whether it's factoring or buying a car, is a lot of people forget to read the fine print. But these factoring companies that are out there that require you to sign these big contracts include things in those contracts knowing that you're not going to read them, knowing that they could take advantage of you in the end, okay? Remember, there's always hidden fees. Okay, please remember to ask questions, all right? Remember, the average trucking company is out of business in 18 months. 18 months. So most factory companies will nickel and dime you to make as much off of you as quickly as possible. All right, now, a big benefit to factoring is the fact that carriers don't have to become debt collectors, okay? The factoring company will talk to the company that owes you money and collect that money from them on your behalf. So you don't have to be chasing them around trying to get them to pay you on time like they should. The factoring company will take care of all that stuff in the event that that you're using factoring, okay? Choosing the wrong kind of factoring, generally there are two kinds of factoring, recourse and non-recourse. The difference between the two is that recourse factoring leaves the responsibility for the account receivable in the hands of the trucking company. If the factor is unable to collect on the debt, then the trucking company is responsible for repaying the factoring company for any money previously advanced under the load. So what that means in short is that if you, and remember, normally non-recourse factoring is way more expensive than recourse factoring. All you have to do to simply make sure that recourse factoring doesn't hurt you is work with quality brokers. Run freight for a company that's not very good at paying its bills, and the factoring company advances you that money for the freight that you ran, and then they don't pay the factoring company will then come back and you're responsible for repaying them the money that they advanced you, okay? And in some cases that does include fees. Non-recourse is exactly the opposite of that. However, non-recourse factoring usually does include way higher fees. Okay, if it's non-recourse, they're going to charge you an extra couple percent. Okay, so make sure that you're working with the right customers, and you want factoring companies that know what those right customers are. Okay, the ones that pay their bills on time, the ones that pay in full, all of those things. There's a lot of different stuff that goes into it, but like I said in the beginning of the video, let me say a little more about Bobtail Factoring, the company that sponsored this video. Bobtail is a no contract, no reserve, no hidden fees, no ACH fees. Their rates, 3.5% for one truck, 3% for two or more. If your volume is over $100,000 a month, call them directly for a different rate, okay? Same day pay, okay? Same day, ACH, all right? If your invoice is sent in before 11 a.m. Eastern, the funds are available the same day by 5. Okay, if you submit between 7 or 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., then you're good for the next day by 9. All right, takes about 20 seconds. They've got their own software, everything's set up, convenient, easy to use. All right, now I don't factor, but I'm going to tell you something. If I had to factor with a company, it would be someone like Bobtail or Bobtail themselves, where I don't have to sign a contract, where there isn't anything hidden. It's all up front. I can choose someone else at any time. They're not hitting me with any hidden fees. All I'm getting hit with is that 3.5% up front. I mean, I've talked to other guys that do factor, such as the coach and trucking exec, and Eddie, the owner of Traveloco, about things like this. And I mean, when I hear that there's a fee for this, blah blah blah, these guys have a $0. There's no fee. Remember, guys, I'm here to tell you about Bobtail because they're a company that I believe in, someone that I would work with if I was factoring. And from talking to them, they want to see companies grow. They want to grow with you and you to grow with them. You want to cancel and change, and you can do it pretty much at any time. So in the link to this video, there will be a link to reviews from other drivers about Bobtail Factoring that have used it, and some more information about factoring and what it is. Read up on it. Check out Bobtail Factoring. Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you're making educated decisions when you get into running a truck. Understand what all of this stuff is, even if you don't do it. You need to have an understanding of it. Be safe. I'll talk to you guys later. Leave your comments and questions below.